Welcome to Golden Age Stories.
I want you to close your eyes for a second. Ignore the phone. Ignore the emails. I want you to conjure up a very specific sound.
Okay, I'm with you.
It's that rhythmic, scratchy hiss of a needle dropping on an old vinyl record. Maybe there's a foghorn blowing somewhere way off in the distance, muffled by a heavy mist. There's the smell of rain hitting hot pavement and the lingering scent of stale cigarette smoke in a room that hasn't seen sunlight in days.
You are painting quite the picture. It feels like we just walked onto a soundstage in 1946.
That is exactly where I want us to be, because today we aren't just doing a biography. We aren't just listing movies. We are trying to understand a ghost.
A ghost is a good way to put it.
We are talking about a man whose face was once described as a map of 1,000 late nights. A man who carried the weight of the world in his eyes and somehow made that exhaustion look like the coolest thing a human being could possess. We're talking about the king of film noir, Humphrey Bogart.
And it's so fitting you start with that atmosphere, the shadows, the isolation, because that is how the cultural memory holds him. It's ingrained.
It really is.
When we think of Bogart, we see the trench coat, we see the fedora pulled low, we see Rick Blaine in Casablanca staring into a glass of bourbon as if the answers to life are, drowning in the ice cube.
Yes, exactly.
We see the ultimate streetwise tough guy.
Right, the guy who talks out of the side of his mouth and doesn't take guff from anyone. But here's the thing that absolutely blew my mind when I started digging into this source material. That image, that Bogie persona. It was a mask, it was a construction. The reality of Humphrey Bogart is so far removed from the gangster he played that it almost feels like a practical joke.
It is the central contradiction of his life, isn't it? It's the great lie that he sold and that we all bought.
A lie he sold so well.
The world remembers him as a symbol of the gritty underworld, but the man himself was a product of the absolute upper crust.
We're talking about the golden boy of the Upper West Side. And our mission today really is to figure out how in the world a wealthy, pampered, angelic baby boy transformed into the man with a voice like gravel soaked in cheap scotch.
It's a transformation that took decades, and it wasn't easy. That's what the documentary we're analyzing really hammers home. This wasn't a straight line to stardom.
Not at all.
It was a jagged, painful road full of failure and disappointment and just sheer bad luck.
And that's why I think this story resonates so much, especially for a mature audience. This isn't a story about a young prodigy who hits it big at 20.
No, it's the opposite of that.
This is a story about a guy who failed and failed and failed and didn't really find himself until he was middle-aged. It's about resilience.
And it's about the emotional truth behind the legend. We're going to look at the smoke and shadows, as you said, but we're going to look at them through the lens of his actual life. His cold childhood, his disastrous marriages, and the insecurities that plagued him until the very end.
So let's go back. Way back. Before the trench coat, before the scar. I want to talk about the Melon's Food Baby. When I read this in the notes, I had to double check it wasn't a typo. Humphrey Bogart, the guy who played Sam Spade, was a baby model.
He was the baby model. You have to understand the context of the turn of the century. Melon's Food was a massive nutritional brand, like Gerber is today. It was everywhere.
Okay, so a household name.
The huge household name. And they needed a face that represented absolute, unblemished purity.
Purity, that is not a word I associate with Bogart.
At all.
Chuckles. No one does. But look at the photos from that era. He was stunning. Big, soulful eyes, perfect skin, rosebud mouth, just this angelic-looking child.
So where does the modeling part come in?
His mother, Maud Humphrey, was one of the most famous commercial illustrators in America. She was a powerhouse. She was actually the breadwinner of the family, making far more money than her husband.
Which was unusual for the time. Highly unusual. And she used her son, Humphrey, as her muse. She painted him. And that image was plastered on cans, in magazines, on billboards. He was the original Maud Humphrey baby. His face was the symbol of wholesome American childhood.
It's almost hilarious to think about. Imagine being the toughest guy in Hollywood, this icon of masculinity, and your childhood photo is basically the equivalent of the Gerber baby.
They must have followed him around.
That had to have been a strange way to start life being famous just for being pretty.
Well, it set up a dynamic that I think haunted him. He was an object to be admired, not necessarily a child to be nurtured.
Ah, that's a key distinction.
And this brings us to the family life, which the source describes with this wonderful phrase, a house of stiff collars and cold hearts.
Let's spend some time here because I feel like this explains so much of his later psychology. You hear Upper West Side, wealthy parents, summer home on Canandaigua Lake, and you think...
You think cushy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You think, okay, easy life. But the emotional temperature in that house sounds like it was near absolute zero.
It was incredibly stratified, and it was full of secrets. You have the father, Belmont Bogart, a brilliant surgeon, socially prominent, but a man with deep, dark demons.
The documentary really goes into this.
It does. The source details his morphine addiction. He had been a surgeon who apparently made a mistake. A patient died, and the guilt from that, combined with some kind of physical injury, led him to the needle.
So you have a father who is physically present.
Chemically absent. That's a great way to put it. He's disappearing into a fog in his own study. The kids knew something was wrong, but it wasn't talked about.
The classic stiff upper lip of that era.
And then you have the mother, Maud. She's a suffragette. She's a successful artist, which is amazing for that time period. But as a mother...
She wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy.
As a mother, she was a professional. She approached motherhood with the same efficiency she applied to her sketches. She provided for them, she clothed them, she educated them. But affection, that wasn't on the list.
The source has that killer quote from Bogart himself.
It's devastating. He said, "I can't say I love my mother, I admired her." Think about the weight of that distinction. Admired.
It's so clinical. It's like talking about a business partner or a respected teacher, not your own mother.
Precisely. There was no physical affection. No hugs, no I love you at bedtime. The documentary mentions that if Humphrey cried or showed emotion, he was told to be a man. He was told to stiffen his upper lip.
So he learns very early on that emotions are a liability, a weakness.
A total liability.
If you show feelings, you get rejected.
Yeah.
If you stay stoic, you survive.
That is the key. The famous Bogart distance, that wall he puts up in his movies, that sense that he is watching you from behind a fortress, that wasn't an acting technique he learned in drama school.
No.
That was a survival mechanism he built at the dinner table. He learned to detach. He learned that to be safe, you had to be impenetrable. He built the walls early.
It's tragic, really. He's this little boy, literally the poster child for American happiness, and inside the house, he's freezing to death emotionally.
And that kind of pressure cooker eventually has to blow. You can't raise a kid in that environment without sparking some rebellion.
And his started pretty early.
For Bogart, that rebellion started in his teenage years. They sent him to Phillips Academy, the best of the best.
Oh, the prep school phase. The plan was for him to become a Yale man, maybe a doctor like his dad. The whole 9 yards.
That was the script written for him. That was the path he was supposed to follow. But Humphrey tore it up.
He had no interest.
Zero interest in academics or the social climbing of the Ivy League. He was a terrible student. And he was expelled. Now, the official record might say failing grades.
But the legend is so much better.
The legend, and the source leans into this, is that he threw a faculty member into a campus fountain.
I desperately want that to be true. It's such a specific act of defiance.
It is.
It's not just, I didn't do my homework. It's, I am literally tossing authority into the water.
It fits the profile, doesn't it? He was testing boundaries. He was trying to get a reaction out of a world that demanded he be polite and perfect.
And his parents must have been mortified. The golden boy, expelled.
Oh, it was a huge scandal for the family. But the real break from his pretty boy past wasn't the expulsion. It was the Navy. World War I.
This is 1918. He enlists. And this is where the physical transformation happens. The scar.
The scar is pivotal. It's the demarcation line in his life. Before the scar, he's the Melon's food baby. After the scar, he's something else.
The story of how he got it is a bit of a mystery, right? I feel like I've heard so many versions.
Everyone has a favorite version. The studio later tried to say it was shrapnel from a shelling attack on his ship, the USS Leviathan.
Because that sounds heroic. Good for PR.
Exactly. But the source digs into the more likely and frankly more interesting reality. He was transporting a prisoner, a naval prisoner, and the prisoner was handcuffed. Bogart asked the man for a light for his cigarette.
A moment of kindness, or at least civility.
A moment of distraction, and the prisoner took advantage of it and smashed Bogart across the face with his handcuffs, trying to escape.
Wow, that feels more Bogart than shrapnel, doesn't it?
It's so much more fitting. It's gritty. It's a moment of violence in a mundane setting. It's a story about a small mistake having a permanent consequence.
And the result was a severed nerve. It paralyzed part of his lip.
It did. It gave him that slight lisp. It gave him that permanent, slightly cynical sneer. But more importantly, as the source puts it, it cracked the porcelain.
It ruined the perfection. It shattered the image of the beautiful boy.
Exactly. When he came back to New York after the war, he wasn't pretty anymore. He was scarred, he looked a little dangerous. And to make matters worse, the family fortune was starting to evaporate because of his father's addiction and some really bad investments.
The foundation is crumbling under his feet.
Completely. And this leads us into a period that I think is the most misunderstood part of his life. The source calls it the wilderness years.
I think most people assume Bogart went from the Navy straight to Hollywood stardom. But that is not what happened at all.
Not even close. We are talking about a solid 15 years of struggle, just grinding it out.
From the early 1920s until about 1934 or 1935, Bogart was adrift. And the irony, the cruel irony, is the roles he was playing.
Oh, it's just perfect, isn't it?
This is the tennis anyone era.
It sounds ridiculous now, but yes. He got into acting for a family friend, and he was cast in these frothy drawing room comedies. He wasn't playing gangsters, he was playing the juvenile lead, the rich, vapid, sweater-wearing college boy who runs onto the stage with a tennis racket and says, "Tennis, anyone."
I'm trying to picture the Humphrey Bogart we know. The guy with the scar, the lisp, the heavy drinking habit, prancing around in white flannels, acting like a bouncy teenager. It just doesn't compute.
It must have been excruciating for him. You have to remember, the 1920s was the jazz age. The male aesthetic was Rudolph Valentino. It was soft, pretty, romantic.
And Bogart was none of those things.
He was short, he was losing his hair, his voice sounded like a chainsaw cutting through gravel. He was physically wrong for the era.
He was a man out of time.
He was, and he knew it. The source talks about how he felt like a fraud. He would get these reviews that were lukewarm at best. Adequate was a word that came up a lot.
Ouch. Adequate. That's got a sting.
There was one play called Nerves in 1924. He actually got decent marks for that, playing a shell-shocked soldier, which was closer to home for him. But the play flopped. He just couldn't catch a break.
And meanwhile, his personal life is crumbling.
The financial ruin of the Bogart family was complete by this point. His father passed away, leaving massive debts. Bogart, who grew up with servants and summer homes, was suddenly broke.
A complete reversal of fortune.
He was living in cheap apartments, taking whatever gig he could get just to pay the tab. And he's watching all these other actors become stars while he's stuck playing idiots.
This is where the drinking really starts to become a defining feature, isn't it? The hard-bitten persona starts to form in reality.
It is. He wasn't drinking to party like the jazz age kids. He was drinking to numb the humiliation. Imagine being in your early 30s. You're supposed to be established. Instead, you're playing roles written for 20-year-olds. Your dad is dead, the money is gone, and you look in the mirror and see a guy who just doesn't fit in.
It creates that cynicism, that bitterness. He's watching his life slip away while he's standing in the wings.
That bitterness is the raw material. It's the fuel that he would later mine for his great performances. But at the time, it just felt like failure.
He was ready to quit.
The source is pretty clear on this. By 1934, he was essentially done. He saw himself as just a working actor destined to be forgotten. A footnote.
But then, the stars align. Or rather, one star aligns. Leslie Howard.
Leslie Howard changes everything. The Petrified Forest, this is the turning point.
So set the scene for us. It's 1936. Warner Brothers is making a movie adaptation of this successful Broadway play.
Right. And Bogart had played the villain on stage and got great reviews for it. The role of the gangster, Duke Mantee.
But Hollywood has its own ideas.
Oh yeah. The studio has a very specific type in mind. They want a movie gangster. And in the 30s, that meant one of two people. James Cagney or Edward G. Robinson.
The Little Caesar guy. Loud, chomping on a cigar, big energy.
Exactly. Robinson was the king. Bogart was a nobody in Hollywood. He'd done a few bit parts, nothing memorable.
So the studio wanted Robinson.
Desperately. But Leslie Howard, who was the star of the film, and we're talking a massive British heartthrob, the kind of guy who played intellectual romantics, he had worked with Bogart on the stage version.
And he saw something.
He saw something in Bogart that the studio heads completely missed. He saw the weariness. He saw that Bogart didn't need to act tough. He was tired. He was cynical. That authenticity was electric.
So he went to bat for him.
He did more than that. When the studio tried to cast Robinson, Leslie Howard sent a telegram that changed Hollywood history. The source says it was just 4 words.
No Bogart, no Howard.
No Bogart, no Howard.
That gives me chills. He put his own career on the line for a guy who was basically a washed-up stage actor.
It's an incredible act of loyalty. And loyalty became Bogart's religion after this. He never, ever forgot what Howard did for him. He even named his daughter Leslie in his honor.
So he gets the part, he's on the set,
Yeah.
and this is where we see the Bogart style emerge for the first time. He made a choice with Duke Mantee that was radically different from how gangsters usually acted.
It was revolutionary in its stillness. Most movie gangsters in the 30s were manic. They shouted, they waved guns around, they were all nervous energy.
But Bogart
Stood still. The source describes it as arms limp, looking like a caged animal waiting for the end.
That's powerful imagery.
He did nothing. He sat at a table in the diner, shoulders slumped, and just stared. And it was terrifying because he looked like a man who had already given up on living, which made him capable of anything. He brought the death into the room with him.
It was the depression, the failure of the 20s, the scar, the dead father, all of it channeled into this one character.
And the audience responded. The critics went wild. They didn't see an actor playing a part, they saw a genuine threat.
So, huge success. He steals the movie from the star who fought for him. You'd think, okay, now he's a star. Now he gets the romantic lead.
You would think. But this is Warner Brothers we're talking about. They were a factory, a movie factory.
They didn't see an artist, they saw a product.
They saw that Bogart was good at playing a thug, so they said, great, do that 30 more times.
The Warner Brothers trench.
That's what he called it. He spent the next 5 years, from 1936 to 1941, in movie jail. He played the henchman. He played the guy who gets shot by James Cagney. He played the guy sent to the electric chair by Edward G. Robinson.
He died in nearly every movie.
He had to attend what he called his own cinematic funerals over and over again. It must have been maddening. He knows he can do more, but he's contractually obligated to be the studio's punching bag.
It's like he got a taste of the promised land and then was immediately sent back to the wilderness.
He was miserable. He was drinking heavily at the Garden of Allah Hotel, complaining to anyone who would listen. He was in his 40s now. In Hollywood years, that's geriatric. He really believed his chance at being a leading man was gone forever.
But then comes 1941. The source calls this the 1941 Trinity. It's like the universe finally decided to pay him back for all those years of humiliation.
It's an incredible run, 3 movies back to back that completely reinvented him.
And we have to give credit where it's due to George Raft.
Poor George Raft, the man who turned down every role that made Bogart a star.
It's almost comical.
It really is. George Raft was a big star, a former dancer who played tough guys. He was offered the lead in High Sierra.
And he turned it down. Why?
He turned it down because the character dies at the end. Raft's ego couldn't handle it. He didn't want to die. He wanted to get the girl and walk off into the sunset.
So the role falls to Bogart. But Bogart had to fight for it, didn't he?
He pleaded with the director, Raoul Walsh. There's a great quote in the source. Bogart goes to him and says, look, I know these guys. I know how they breathe. I know how they die.
I know how they die. That's chilling.
He was telling Walsh, I have lived this failure. I know what it feels like to be trapped and cornered. And Walsh gave him the shot. And High Sierra changed everything because, for the first time, the criminal had a soul.
Mad Dog Roy Earl. But he wasn't just a mad dog.
Not at all. He loved a little dog named Pard. He fell for a woman with a clubfoot. He paid for her surgery out of the kindness of his heart. He was a man with a code, even if he was a bank robber.
And the ending is so iconic.
When he dies on that mountain at the end, audiences didn't cheer, they wept. For the first time, they mourned the death of the gangster. They saw the humanity behind the scar.
That's the crack in the mask.
Yeah.
The vulnerability peeking through.
Exactly. And then immediately after, George Raft makes mistake number 2, a big one.
What's next?
He turns down a weird little detective movie being directed by a first-timer named John Huston. The studio didn't have high hopes for it. The movie was The Maltese Falcon.
Enter Sam Spade.
And enter the modern anti-hero. Before Sam Spade, movie detectives were often polite or there were bumbling Sherlock Holmes types. Sam Spade was different.
How so?
He was dangerous. He was smarter than the cops and tougher than the crooks. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty.
But he had a code. That line, I won't play the sap for you, that says it all.
It's the defining line of the genre. He's telling the woman he loves, or thinks he loves, I might be crazy about you, but I won't let you make a fool of me. My integrity comes first. It established Bogart as the man of honor in a corrupt world.
So you have the sympathetic criminal in High Sierra, the cool, code-driven detective in Maltese Falcon. But then comes the big one, the one that cemented him not just as a star, but as a romantic icon, Casablanca.
The irony of Casablanca is that nobody thought it was going to be a classic. Nobody.
Really, it seems so perfect now.
The source describes the production as absolute chaos. The script wasn't finished. They were writing scenes the night before shooting. The actors had no idea how it was going to end.
Bogart was terrified.
He was petrified. This was his first real romantic lead. He had never carried a love story before. And he's staring at Ingrid Bergman, who was luminous, tall, perfect. And he's this short, scarred 43-year-old guy in a toupee.
I read about this. He had to wear platform shoes just to kiss her properly.
He did. I can't get that image out of my head. Rick Blaine, the coolest man in the world, teetering on 3-inch lifts.
The illusion of Hollywood.
But that insecurity is what makes the performance work. Rick Blaine is a man whose heart has been ripped out. He's bitter. He's hiding in his cafe, telling himself he sticks his neck out for nobody.
He didn't have to act that part.
Not at all. He just channeled all his own loneliness, all the rejection from his mother, the failure of the 20s, the bad marriages. He poured it all into Rick Blaine.
So when he looks at her and says, "Here's looking at you, kid," it's not smooth. It's not a pickup line. It's sad.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking. It's the sound of a man who knows he can't have the thing he wants most, but he appreciates the beauty of the moment anyway. That emotional alchemy transformed him. He wasn't just a tough guy anymore. He was the most vulnerable man in Hollywood.
Speaking of vulnerability, we have to talk about his real life during this peak.
Yeah.
Because while he's becoming a romantic icon on screen, his home life was, well, turbulent is an understatement.
Oh, it was a war zone.
The source calls this the era of the battling Bogarts.
This is his third marriage to an actress named Mayo Method. And if you think the drama in Casablanca is intense, it's nothing compared to the Bogart household in the early 40s.
Tell us about Mayo.
Mayo was a talented actress in her own right, but she was a woman of fire and fury, and she was a severe alcoholic. They were both heavy drinkers, which was just gasoline on the fire.
Their fights were legendary.
The whole town knew about them. They were known as the battling Bogarts. The police were at their house constantly.
The source mentioned some specific incidents that are honestly shocking.
It was incredibly violent. She once stabbed him in the back, literally, in the lower back with a butcher knife during an argument.
My God.
Another time, she set their house on fire. They would throw things, scream at each other all night. It was pure chaos.
And Bogart stayed through all of this.
He stayed for years. And not only did he stay, he didn't fight back physically. The source paints this picture of him just pouring another scotch, lighting a Chesterfield cigarette, and waiting for her to pass out. Just enduring it.
Why? Why does the biggest star in the world put up with that kind of abuse?
It goes back to the psychology we talked about earlier, the Melons food baby who was admired but not loved. Bogart had massive imposter syndrome.
He didn't think he was worthy of happiness?
Deep down, I think he looked in the mirror and saw a monster. He famously said, "I like a jealous woman. We get on so well because we don't have any illusions about each other."
He thought he deserved it. He thought that's what love was supposed to be.
I think so. The expert analysis in the documentary suggests he felt unworthy of a nice life, of a peaceful love. He thought this toxic, violent chaos was the only kind of love a guy like him could get. He felt like a fraud.
Which brings up the other insecurities. We touched on the height, but there was also the hair.
The toupee! It's the great open secret of his career. The toughest guy in cinema was wearing a rug.
Did that bother him? I mean, a lot of actors did it.
He hated it. He absolutely loathed it. It made him feel fake. Every morning sitting in the makeup chair, getting that thing glued on, it just reinforced the idea that he was playing a character, that he wasn't real.
And the drinking?
Yeah.
It wasn't just social at this point. The world is 3 drinks behind. That was his catchphrase.
It was his armor. You have to understand, by this point, Bogie was a public figure. People expected him to be witty, cynical, tough. The alcohol allowed him to perform that role 24/7. It kept the social anxiety at bay. It kept the Bogart distance intact.
So he's got the fame, the money, the Oscar nominations. But he's miserable. He's trapped in a violent marriage. He feels like a fake. But he has his code. He had his integrity.
For the movie.
Until 1947, the HUAC incident.
This is the moment where the armor fails. This is the big crack in the code.
Set the context for us. This is the height of the Red Scare in America.
The House Un-American Activities Committee, or HUAC, was on a witch hunt. They were hunting for communists in Hollywood. They were blacklisting writers, directors. They were ruining lives.
And Bogart got involved.
He did. Bogart wasn't a communist. He was an old-school Roosevelt Democrat. But he believed fiercely in free speech and the First Amendment. So he organized a group of stars, the Committee for the First Amendment, people like Danny Kaye, Gene Kelly, and they flew to Washington to protest the hearings.
He stood up to the government. That's very Sam Spade. Very Rick Blaine.
It was, initially. It was a brave thing to do, but he completely underestimated the backlash.
What happened?
The press turned on him. The studios threatened to tear up his contract. The headlines screamed that Humphrey Bogart was a commie sympathizer. The pressure was unbearable.
And he blinked.
He folded completely. He wrote an article for a magazine called I'm No Communist. He apologized for the trip. He said he was duped by more sinister forces. He essentially threw his friends and the cause under the bus to save his career.
That must have eaten him alive. A man whose whole identity is loyalty, betraying his own cause.
The source calls it a quiet rot of guilt. He never really forgave himself for that. In that moment, he realized that when the chips were down, he wasn't Rick Blaine. He wasn't Sam Spade. He was just an actor who was afraid of losing his swimming pool. It was a very human failure.
It makes him tragic, but also more real. He wasn't a superhero.
No. Luckily, the story doesn't end in that darkness, because right around this time, actually a little before the HUAC mess, he found his redemption. And he found it on a soundstage, across from a 19-year-old model named Lauren Bacall.
Bogie and Baby. This is the romance that defines him in the public imagination.
It's the shift from darkness to light. It really is. When they met on the set of To Have and Have Not, Bogart was 44, she was 19. He was still married to Mayo.
On paper, that sounds creepy. It sounds like a typical Hollywood midlife crisis.
It does. But if you watch the movie, the power dynamic is completely flipped. She was the one in control.
From the very beginning.
She had that voice, that low, sultry steel in her voice. She looked him in the eye and didn't blink. She wasn't intimidated by him at all.
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
That line. She challenged him. She was his equal. And I think for the first time in his life, Bogart didn't have to be the Melons food perfection, and he didn't have to be the whipping boy for a violent wife. He could just be Humphrey.
The source says she gave him a home.
And they mean that literally and metaphorically. He divorced Mayo, married Bacall. They moved into a big house in Holmby Hills. They had kids. He became a father in his 50s.
He finally found peace.
He finally found the warmth that was missing from his childhood. The stiff collars and cold hearts were gone. He was happy, genuinely happy.
It's beautiful that he got that final act.
Yeah.
But because this is a noir story, the shadows eventually catch up. We have to talk about The Long Goodbye, 1957.
The lifestyle caught up with him. All those years of Chesterfields, all those years of Scotch. He developed cancer of the esophagus.
And the decline was rapid.
It was brutal. He shrank. The source says he went from a healthy, albeit thin man to an 80-pound skeleton. It was incredibly difficult for his friends and family to watch.
But the detail that really got to me in the source was the dumbwaiter.
Yeah, that's a tough one. He became so weak he couldn't walk up and down the stairs of his own home, so they would put him in the dumbwaiter, the little elevator for food, and hoist him between floors.
It's such a humiliating image for a man who was so proud.
It is. But he didn't hide, did he? He didn't lock the doors and waste away in private.
No. And this is the ultimate test of his code, I think.
I agree. He refused to be pitied. Every day at 5 p.m., he insisted on cocktail hour. He would be dressed, he would be brought downstairs and sit in his wheelchair. And his friends, Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, Spencer Tracy, David Niven, would come over.
It sounds like a wake while he was still alive.
But he wouldn't let it be sad. If anyone started to cry or look long-faced, he'd kick them out. He sat there, glass of scotch in his hand, cigarette lit, and he cracked jokes. He maintained the persona until the absolute end.
He uses telling the world, I'm still Bogart, you don't get to feel sorry for me.
Exactly that. He was going to die on his own terms.
There's a debate about his last words, the legend versus the fact.
Right. The legend, the one everyone loves, is that he looked at his wife, Lauren Bacall, and said, I should never have switched from scotch to martinis.
I hope that's true. It's so perfect. It's the ultimate Bogart line.
It's almost certainly apocryphal. His real last words were probably just a quiet goodbye, kid, to Bacall. But the fact that the martini line exists, it shows how much we need him to be that guy. We need him to be the man who winks at death.
Who refuses to play the sap, even for the Grim Reaper.
Precisely.
So he's gone in 1957, but here we are, decades later, still talking about him. Why? Why does the 65-plus audience still connect so deeply with this guy? Why do we still watch Casablanca every time it's on?
I think it's because he redefined what a hero looks like. Before Bogart, heroes were knights in shining armor. They were dashing, they were morally perfect, they were strong and handsome.
They were the melon's food babies.
They were, and Bogart taught us that a hero could be tired, a hero could be flawed, a hero could be world-weary and scarred.
He made it okay to be exhausted by the world.
He made it okay to be cynical as long as you held on to your integrity. He bridged the gap between the old world of perfect heroes and the modern world of complex anti-heroes. He's the father of Clint Eastwood, of Don Draper, of Tony Soprano.
So his definition of masculinity wasn't about physical strength.
No, not at all. He taught us that masculinity isn't about how hard you can punch or how loud you can yell.
What is it about then?
It's about endurance. It's about taking the hits, the cold childhood, the lost money, the heartbreak, the professional failure, and keeping your code. It's about standing in the rain, lighting a cigarette, and doing the right thing, even if nobody is watching and nobody thanks you for it.
There's a quote, I can't remember where from. The only thing that matters is how you walk through the fire.
Exactly. He showed us that you can lose the girl, you can lose the money, you can even lose the fight. But if you keep your integrity, you win.
I love that. It brings us right back to that sound we started with. The needle on the record. The rain against the window. The lonely saxophone.
It's a comforting place, isn't it? The Bogart world. It's dark, sure, it's full of shadows, but you know the rules there. You know that decency matters.
Bogart taught us that the world is full of melon's food lies. It's full of people pretending to be pure and perfect. But if you strip all that away, if you embrace the scars, you might just make it.
Character is measured in the silence between the words. That's what he gave us.
Well, I think that's the perfect place to leave it. We've walked through the smoke, we've seen the scars, and I think we understand the man a little better now.
It was a pleasure to take this trip with you.
And to you, listening. Thanks for joining us in the dark for a little while. Maybe tonight, pour yourself a drink. Doesn't have to be scotch put on the Maltese Falcon. And appreciate the art of endurance. Here's looking at you, kid.
Take care.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.